Welcome to the first of many great meals we'll be preparing on Firehouse Kitchen. Today I'm going to make a very special recipe out of my first book called The Healthy Firehouse Cookbook. This recipe is called El Diablo Sausage and Lentil Stew. And the reason we call it El Diablo is because Diablo is Spanish for the devil, and we used to call fires that we would run into the red devil, and we were going to go in there and fight it. So in honor of that, we call it El Diablo Sausage and Lentil Stew. A hearty, healthy, one-pot meal that was a big hit in the local firehouses that I worked in. The one reason I like this recipe in particular for firehouses, and a particular challenge I had as a chef, not just a firefighter, is no other chef in the world has to worry that an alarm's going to come in and out they go. So I had to time my meals not only to get them on the table in time, but also interspersed with our alarm runs that we had to respond to. So the reason I picked all of these ingredients is my first book was healthy. So I tried to get my firefighters that I worked with eating healthy. When I was a probationary fireman, I'd never forget this day. First day I walked in a firehouse, they cooked meatloaf and mashed potatoes, and for a big thing of mashed potatoes for 8 of us, they were putting 4 sticks of butter in. I understood when I signed on to the fire department I might die in the line of duty. I just didn't want to die from injuries sustained at the kitchen table. So throughout my career, I tried to prevent that by making healthy meals, and this is one of them. So we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of olive oil in a pan heated to medium. Now you know it's heated to medium. It's too hot if we put the oil in and it starts smoking, and you can see it's not smoking, so this is perfectly heated to medium. Now we're going to take our turkey sausage, and you're putting them in whole, and I'll show you in a minute why we're putting them in whole. Now you're not looking to cook them all the way through completely, because they're going to continue, like I said, to stew for 45 minutes to an hour. So basically want them to kind of stiffen up, and so that we're going to be pulling them out after they stiffen up. So you don't want to cook them all the way through. You're basically looking to just kind of brown them. I'm using turkey sausage here. It's a little bit leaner than regular sausage, but a good regular sausage is okay in this also. And if you were going to use a good regular sausage, one of the tips I like to use for cooking purposes is take a fork or a knife and actually pierce them like so. And one of the reasons that even though it's sausage and even though it's lean, they still do have some fat in it. And we do want to render some of that fat into the dish, which adds flavor and also stops it from sticking on the bottom. So as you turn them, kind of pierce them. Now we're not looking to, again, cook them all the way through. We really want the meat to kind of stiffen up a little bit so we can slice it. If I were to take these out now and slice them, it would kind of fall apart. So we really want some of the meat to cook. I want to say 2/3 of the way through to the center. If you cut one open and it happens to look a little pink inside, don't worry about it. They're going to be re-sauteed in this. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the other ingredients that we're going to use in this dish, and one in particular is the lentils, a great source of fiber, great source of iron. When they come in the package from the stores, take them out of the package. Sometimes they don't really clean them, so you want to really rinse them, drain them, let them dry, and then put them back in. And it's kind of an interesting ingredient, lentils, because they're almost like a rice. Those of you who don't know what lentils are, it's almost like a rice, and rice pulls the flavor of whatever you're cooking inside it and adds a lot of flavor. So we have turkey sausage here, we have chicken broth, garlic, onion. Some of that will all be in this kind of rendered fat, and it'll also pull right into the lentils, and that's what gives this dish a particular amount of flavor. Okay, now these have browned properly. And you can leave the kind of rendered fat in there if you like, but if you want to be extra healthy, which I was, you can actually take a bowl, because these are ready to be sliced now. They've stiffened up enough, they're browned. I'm going to take them out now, and we can slice them up. But before you slice them up, if you want to save a few calories, a few fat calories, and really make this an extra healthy dish, you can actually just take this, and you can see how much fat. And actually that is not going to add a lot more flavor to this dish. The dish is going to be flavorful enough, so you can actually do that. Kind of get that out of the way. And then what we're going to do here is take these sausages, kind of line them up, and you're going to make like 1/4-inch rounds. And you can see they're a little pink inside. And you can see actually this is done exactly perfect. A little pink inside, about 1/3 of the way in is brown. You're going to slice these up. Now while these are slicing and these are still hot, because those onions and garlic are going to take a little while to sweat. So I can actually do a little two-handed cooking here, get these going. Now even though I drained the fat off, the sweating of the garlic and onion will continue to release its water into there so that they don't stick. And then that's what you're looking to do. These actually came out absolutely perfect. slightly pink inside, and they are going to continue to cook in there. Now you want to get these back in there right away so that none of the onions burn, because as you add these back, it's going to cool the pan down a little bit. Okay, get these sliced up. Another interesting story about Firehouse cooking that sets me apart from any other chef. I don't think any other chef in the world has to prepare a meal for somebody and worry about later on that you're risking your life with them. And it wasn't so much risking my life with the other firefighters, is that if I prepared a bad meal and I was up on the 3rd floor waiting for somebody to start the water, kidding around a few times, I would, here I am in a burning building, I have a hose nozzle in my hand, I'm waiting for the water to come up to the thing, and I'd hear the guy that I made the bad meal for say, "Joe, well, listen, my stomach's bothering me a little bit. I don't think I can get enough pressure to that floor." Only a 1/10 of a second of a joke, and then he'd start us with water. But yeah, no other chef in the world has to worry that he made a bad meal for somebody and then his life relied on that firefighter that he made the bad meal for. So yeah, now that these are all sliced up, and you can actually, again, hit the heat up a little bit, because as we add this, it's going to cool the pan down a little bit. Okay. Yeah, now we can switch to a wooden spoon, which I particularly like using a wooden spoon rather than a metal spoon. A lot of times a metal spoon, especially this is a non-stick pan, the metal spoon, you kind of scrape it a little bit, you wind up taking off some of that coating. I don't know whether it's good for you, bad for you, whether it's Teflon or silver, whatever they have on the bottom of it. And not only that, even aluminum pans, from what I heard out in the industry, sometimes you're scraping the pan, you're getting little bits of aluminum in it. So I actually prefer a good old-fashioned wooden spoon. And I'm also half Italian, so the wooden spoon sometimes, if I didn't listen, I get the wooden spoon. Okay, I've taken out one of the turkey sausage here, and you can see it's about 2/3 of the way cooked and slightly pink in the middle. That's about the time we want to actually turn the heat up a little bit to high. And of course, very quickly, we're going to have to add our 6 cups of chicken broth. Now, I prefer to make a homemade type of a stock. This is store-bought chicken broth. One of the things you want to look for in the store-bought chicken broth is the amount of calories in it. The lower the calories, the thinner the stock, and it's really not going to make for a good flavor. So when you go to the store and you buy a good chicken stock, make sure it's got between 75 and 100 calories per serving. It means they actually put some chicken in it, not just use some water and dip the chicken in it, and they call it chicken broth. So get a good quality chicken broth. Homemade stock, of course, always better. Okay, now we're going to want to add our lentils. Lentils in particular, I like some of the beans, red kidney beans, black beans, you kind of have to soak overnight if you don't buy them in the can. 24 hours, we didn't have the time to do that. So lentils is one of the few beans out there and legumes that you can actually just put in, and again, it'll act like a rice. Within 45 minutes to 50 minutes of cooking in here, like a rice, it'll pull a lot of the flavor in. So you just add these like so. This is going to be heating up on high. Give it a good stir. You don't want them to kind of sink to the bottom and stick. I actually, dried spices we use in this. Again, at the Firehouse, some particular concerns that we had, we kept what they call a commissary locker. And it had ketchup, salt, pepper, and some amount of dried spices, which we could use if we were preparing something in the kitchen. Generally, as a chef, as a trained chef, we like to use fresh ingredients, but they weren't always available. We had to take the rig out to get our meal, the rig apparatus, fire truck, if you will, take it out to the local food store, which was kind of fun too, because the girls like to see us in our gear and equipment, walking through the aisles, finding out where the chicken cutlets were on sale. We always use dried spices in general in the Firehouse. Culinary standpoint, fresh ingredients better, fresh rosemary, fresh tarragon, fresh ground pepper. So for this purpose, we're going to use, and the reason I have, this is sugar, actually regular table sugar. You say, why sugar in a recipe like this? It actually knocks down the acidity of some of the tomatoes in this, and it doesn't make it. Some people have trouble digesting tomatoes, or sometimes they're very acid. Okay, fresh ground black pepper, that we had in the Firehouse. So then you have tarragon, oregano, and again, I called it El Diablo sausage and lentil stew. Hot red pepper sauce. It's not that much for the amount of stew that we're making, so it's really not going to make it hot. We called it El Diablo more because of the firefighting terminology than the heat of the dish. So now your dried spices, you want to add early in the dish because it takes a while for them to kind of steep their flavor and get almost like a tea. If you have a cup of tea, you let it steep. Well, your dried spices, dried tea, you put into hot water, it steeps, and it'll let its flavor out. If we were using fresh ingredients, they would be pre-chopped, and we would put them at the very end because they have their flavor already, and we just look at the flavor of the dish. So your dried spices go in early, fresh spices go in late. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to cut it down to simmer, and we're going to add just regular chopped tomatoes. Not seeded or anything like that, just chopped tomatoes. Okay, give that a good stir. And then 1.5 cups water. Now you might say the water is kind of watering this down, but actually, again, like a rice, one of the great things about lentils and the great thing about this dish is the lentils themselves will actually pull a lot of that water into them, soften them up, give them flavor, and it'll pull in all the flavor of the spices and the other ingredients that we're using. We're going to turn that down to simmer. 45 minutes later, all of those lentils have absorbed all those spices, chicken broth, sausage, tomatoes, other ingredients have really kind of melded into a delicious, delicious hearty recipe that we'd had up at the Firehouse. Now there's a unique expression to the New York City Fire Department called take up. And I always thought, I was a probationary firefighter, we went to a burning fire building, we came out, the chief said, all right, gentlemen, we're all done, take up. Now what that really meant was take up your gear, equipment, and apparatus and go back to the firehouse and take yourselves a break. Now it's actually unique to the New York City Fire Department alone. I visited fire departments all around the world, and whatever their signal is at the end, the word take up was unique in the whole world, in the whole fire service to the New York City Fire Department. So, you know what? This dish is ready to be served. We're going to take up, and now we'll go to our drink of the day.